Welcome to episode number 1 of Leaders and Legacies, where I get to interview your host, Craig Andrews. Congratulations on the launch of your podcast.
Oh, thanks, Josh. I'm so excited to get it started.
And, again, we're talking with leaders in this podcast about having impact beyond one's self. And what led you to, why is this an important topic for you?
Well, Josh, anybody that's familiar with my story knows that in 2021, I spent 3 months in the hospital. And for one of those months, they told my wife I was going to die. And it was lights out for me for 6 weeks. And when I woke up from my coma, and then my mind started clearing, my wife started telling me about what had been going on. I found out that my team kept running the business without me. Not only that, but there were freelancers that reached out to my team and they said, as long as Craig is in the hospital, we will do whatever it takes. And when I heard that, it overwhelmed me. It still overwhelms me. I think that's the biggest accomplishment in my career. I mean, I've driven over $500 million in revenue, and that's nothing compared to this. And it's by far, from a business standpoint, my proudest moment. And so I started thinking about, what are other people doing? I mean, I was trying to run a good business. I was trying to be a good leader to my team. I obviously never expected that moment to come. And I just wonder what other leaders are out there leading their teams and what they're doing and how they're shaping their teams. And what would happen to them if all of a sudden they were just taken out of the picture overnight? Would their business keep running? And those are the best leaders. I want to hear their secrets. I want to hear how they do it. I want to hear how they motivate their teams. But more importantly, how they inspire others. Because whether you do it because you're trying to make money or you're trying to do it for other reasons, your biggest impact is not if you can influence 1, 2, or 10 people. It's if you can impact hundreds, thousands, or millions. And to do that, for you to be able to make a big impact, you will not do it yourself. You have to do it through others. And that's where the leadership comes in.
Yeah. And I can't help thinking about this duality, right? Of, thinking about our motivations, are our motivations just to drive, quarterly profits, or, again, just kind of thinking a little bit more broadly about, the impact these, how human lives are impacted and touched, how, the mark that we leave in the world. And I wonder, how that changes somebody. So like, you've got 2 leaders within an organization. One's a little bit more impact and cause driven and, kind of thinking about legacy, whereas the other one's a little bit more transactional. I mean, I'm just thinking that out in my own brain. And I think that, well, again, I'm kind of revealing my biases, but I think that it just evokes kind of a different energy day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. For years I worked in corporate America, and I left, and you know what? I wasn't a good manager. I really wasn't. And when I started off and doing my own business, the first thing that hit me, because I was a little too proud of myself. I looked at the results that I got. I thought, I did these great things. And then when I started off and doing it on my own, I started realizing the number of people that it took to make me successful at my job. And I realized how much I underappreciated these other folks. And so for me, it's kind of like trying to correct the sins of my past, in my own business, to make sure I never do that again. But also just recognizing people for what they bring to the picture, because it just hit me so bluntly of how insufficient I was by myself.
Yeah. And this podcast, Craig, kind of foreshadow for us what you imagine these conversations are going to be like. So I'm thinking about the person that's listening to our conversation right now, the transformation that they will experience when they learn from folks that have been focused in this direction, how they might be impacted by those conversations.
There are a few natural born geniuses we were talking about one, I live next to Michael Dell's ranch, the computer guy, and I don't know, he just seemed to get it from a very young age. But, for myself and so many people that I meet, we go through life and we learn hard lessons, and there are people out there that can help us shortcut those lessons in our lives. And so what I hope for the listeners of the podcast, if you have a business, you are a leader, whether you intended that to be true or not. And even if you're a team of one, you're a leader. What I hope for people to get is to learn leadership lessons, learn what worked in different ways. There are different leadership styles. Not everybody has to be the same. Different people accomplish their ends through different means. You have quiet leaders, and then you have big, bold leaders. It's not that one's right and one's wrong. It's different. And we want to bring on those variety of voices to help people find the style that naturally suits them.
And I would imagine, to our friend that's listening to our conversation right now, they probably know someone that deserves to be nominated. Like they probably have some great experiences and stories, but they deserve to be celebrated for that, that mindset. And so, for our listener friend, here's what you want to do. You want to go to allies, the number 4 me. So allies4me.com. Click on podcast, grab that link, share that with the leader that you know. But Craig, is there any further, to kind of help someone know who would just be a perfect guest for this podcast, who that might be?
Yeah. So I would say anybody in a leadership role, you don't even have to be running the company, but if you're in some type of leadership role, join that. Often the people that I find myself working with are folks that have that work in the high ticket space, which is kind of different, kind of a different space. It requires, certainly for their customers, it requires a different style of leadership than, we're going to put up this display in the store, we're going to put up this display on our website and drive tons of traffic there. It's a special kind of leadership that can build lots, high levels of trust just to be successful. And so anybody, if you think about yourself selling a high ticket item, chances are you have that type of leadership that builds that deep trust, that brings somebody to the point of confidence where they'll write a big check, trusting you because of what you communicated to make a difference in their life.
Yeah. Craig, what I was going to share to our friend that's listening here is when you click on podcasts, you'll see a link right there where someone can apply to be a guest. So there's a scheduling application, all that sort of thing. So that's what you'll find again at allies4me.com. And Craig, just so folks kind of know who you are and what you do, you have a tremendous network. I mean, you work with people like this regularly. Do you mind maybe describing a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a marketing consultant. We help businesses grow. We work, as I mentioned, we work really with people who have high ticket, high trust offers. Somebody asks me, what's high ticket mean? And I said, high ticket's high ticket based on the feelings of whoever's writing the check. And so, but, typically if you're thinking B2B, you're certainly talking 4-figure deals, probably 5 or 6-figure deals, maybe even 7-figure deals where it just drives a higher level of trust. And so we work a lot with those type of folks. I'm in the Vistage network. I meet people from all over the country, driving, and quite often they have similar type businesses. So through, that would describe, most of the people we run into on a regular basis.
And so just in case there's someone's listening or wait a minute, maybe you could also help me. Can you put a little finer note on that about who you love working with and kind of those very specific issues that you might solve?
Yes. So anybody who's in the coaching business, anybody who's in some type of consulting business, One of the common threads we found is if you're in a business that has to write proposals, we get you out of the proposal writing business. So that, kind of that finer point is, if you know somebody who is in the proposal writing business, which is tough, that's really tough. Those are the people we often work with. Those are the people we know. I just messaged somebody this morning, again, through the Vistage network. They're a landscaper. We actually don't work with a ton of landscapers, but they're a high-end landscaper. And they're looking for help. And I know how that business goes. And especially right now in this economy, it's tough. And what happens is you go out and you have, like 3 proposals out there, and folks, and you're hoping that they accept your proposal. You're worried about losing on price. You're worried about your prospect not understanding the important details of the proposal. We eliminate that whole process for our clients. And so those are the type of people we work with. Those are the type of people that we run into a lot.
Yeah. And again, your website is alliesforme.com. And to our listener friend, here's what you want to do. Click on podcast. First off, hit subscribe. And however you're listening to this episode right now, I promise you that success leaves clues. And I look at folks, Craig, at the level that you're talking with, and it's a joy. It's truly a joy to be around those people that they're doing it because they want to make the world a better place. They're doing it because they love the transformation, the impact that they make in the lives of other people. I love that. I enjoy that. And that's exactly what you're going to get. If you want that proximity, that sort of modeling, then this is the podcast for that. So again, Leaders and Legacies, impact beyond yourself. Craig, congratulations again on the launch of this. Looking forward to lots of great episodes. Again, to our friend, also feel free to share this with your associates, with your friends, and let's all inspire each other to kind of focus in that direction. Craig, I would imagine, a world where we're kind of focused on that, it might make for some interesting changes, I'd say, in our culture from time to time.
It would, and I know we're wrapping up, but let me just kind of bring this back to where this all started. When I'm in the hospital, I had to learn how to walk again. When I woke up, all my muscles had atrophied. I lost 40 pounds, and learning how to walk as an adult is hard. And on those dark days, there was this fellow that I thought of. You know what? I've never met him. I know his dad, but I've never met him. A guy named Kyle Maynard, who was born with no arms or legs. And without even knowing me, he inspired me to push through the hard days. Just by the example he's lived in his life, and he's done some amazing things. And so thinking about those guests and anybody listening, you may never know the impact you're making on somebody's life. And we'd love to hear you come on and just talk about the impact you're making, and let others share in that joy.
Craig Andrews, congratulations on the launch of the podcast. To our listener, go ahead and hit subscribe and start binge listening to every following episode now. I promise it'll be transformative. Thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you, Josh.